Commander Varek sat in the command chair of the Zalari exploration vessel Shalvar. Outside the curved glass of the main deck, stars drifted slowly against the deep black. The ship was moving through a part of space rarely traveled, a region marked on charts only as Sector 9-5, with little more than empty star systems and drifting debris. Their mission was simple: update star maps and look for new habitable worlds. Nothing in their orders suggested they would find anything unusual here. The Shalvar's scanners hummed softly, the sound a constant background to the quiet work of the crew. Zalari ships were built for long journeys, and silence was common during these stretches. Most discoveries in deep space were slow and predictable: asteroid fields, gas giants, and the occasional frozen moon. Varek expected more of the same. Then the communications officer, a slim Zalari named Kern, turned sharply in his seat. His eyes widened slightly, and he adjusted the scanning console again. "Commander," Kern said, his voice calm but with a trace of surprise. "I am detecting a signal." Varek leaned forward. "From where?" "From within the nebula ahead," Kern replied. "Faint, almost buried in background radiation, but it is unusual. It is repeating every few seconds." The commander's brow furrowed. "Is it a distress call?" "Possibly," Kern said. "The pattern matches an ancient human transmission code. Very old. I almost missed it." The bridge grew quiet. Humans were not a common sight in Zalari records. They had scattered colonies in the galaxy, but most kept contact with their kind, or allied species. A human signal in such a remote place made little sense. "Put it on speakers," Varek ordered. The sound filled the deck, soft static, then a rhythmic tone repeating again and again. The pattern felt strange, as though it carried more weight than just a call for help. Some crew members exchanged glances. None had heard a signal like this before. Varek stood and walked to the star map projection in the center of the deck. A shimmering blue sphere marked their position, while the nebula ahead swirled in deep greens and golds. The signal originated from somewhere inside it, far from any mapped trade routes. "There are no recorded colonies here," Varek said slowly. "No supply stations, no inhabited worlds." "Yet the signal is real," Kern replied. The science officer, Relna, spoke up. "Commander, the nebula is dense with ionized particles. It could easily hide a planet from standard scans. The signal might have been trapped here for years before reaching us." Varek considered this. Space was vast enough that many worlds remained hidden, their light swallowed by gas clouds and dust belts. Still, the idea of a human colony, forgotten, cut off and still sending out a message, sparked something in his mind. Curiosity, yes, but also a hint of unease. "We will investigate," Varek said. "Alter course toward the nebula. Maintain shields in case of instability." The crew moved quickly. The hum of the engines deepened as the ship angled toward the swirling colors ahead. Outside, the nebula grew larger, filling the viewports, with shifting clouds of emerald and gold, lit faintly by hidden stars. The sight was beautiful, but Varek felt its beauty carried a quiet warning. This was a place that wanted to remain unseen. Hours passed as they moved deeper into the cloud. The ship's navigation system struggled to maintain clear readings, and manual adjustments became necessary. The signal grew stronger, no longer faint but sharp and deliberate, its rhythm steady as a heartbeat. Then, through the distortion of the nebula, the sensors detected something. Gravity signatures, atmospheric readings, and the unmistakable shape of a habitable planet. The main display brought it into view, a lush world of deep green forests, silver rivers, and wide stretches of blue water. Clouds drifted lazily over continents that glimmered with life. It was beautiful in the way untouched worlds often were, wild, balanced, and unscarred by heavy industry. "Confirmed oxygen-rich atmosphere," Relna said, her tone careful. "Temperature range supports human life. Multiple population centers. Detected. But no orbital structures, no satellites, no ships." Varric narrowed his eyes. "So they live only on the surface." "Apparently," Relna replied. The crew exchanged quiet looks. In a galaxy where even the smallest settlements had some link to space, a world without any visible spacecraft felt like a step into the past. The commander made his decision. "Prepare a landing team. I want to see this colony for myself." They descended slowly through the planet's atmosphere, the Shalvar's hull cutting through thin clouds. Below them, vast forests stretched like green oceans. Rivers shimmered in the sunlight. Small towns appeared, clusters of stone buildings surrounded by farmland. The patterns of the fields were neat and orderly, as though every crop had been placed with purpose. When they approached one of the larger settlements, something unusual caught Varric's attention. Dozens of humans stood in the open fields, arranged in silent lines. They were not waving or shouting as some might when seeing an alien ship. Instead, they stood perfectly still, watching with calm, steady eyes. There was no fear, no excitement, only quiet observation. The landing craft touched down in a wide clearing near the edge of the settlement. The air smelled clean and fresh, the scent of plants and earth filling Varric's lungs as he stepped out. The humans were still there, their gazes fixed on the newcomers. One stepped forward, a tall man with weathered skin and sharp eyes. He wore a simple tunic of pale cloth with a belt made from woven fibers. His steps were measured, and when he stopped before Varric, there was no trace of uncertainty in his voice. "You came from beyond the stars," the man said in a human tongue that carried an old rhythm. "We have been expecting you." The words surprised the landing team. "Expecting us?" Varric asked. "You sent the signal?" The man smiled faintly. "We sent it long ago. We knew one day it would be found." The other humans remained, silent, their eyes unblinking. Something about the scene felt carefully prepared, as though this meeting had been imagined many times before it happened. Varric felt the first threads of unease tighten in his mind. There was no sign of fear or curiosity in these people, only a calm certainty that he did not yet understand. The tall man who had stepped forward introduced himself as Rian. His voice was deep and steady, and every word seemed chosen with care. Behind him, the rest of the settlement stood silent, their expressions calm and unreadable. Varric studied them for a moment before speaking. "We came after detecting your signal. There are no records of any colony here. How long have your people lived on this world?" Ryan's eyes held a quiet strength. "We have been here for many generations. This is our home, and it has been so since before any of us were born." The commander looked around. The settlement was unlike anything he had seen on other human worlds. The buildings were made of pale stone, their walls smooth and strong. Roofs were sloped and covered with dark tiles that gleamed faintly in the sunlight. The streets were wide and clean, with no clutter or scattered tools. Even the farmland beyond the walls looked perfectly arranged, every row straight, every plant healthy. Relna, the science officer, stepped forward and scanned the air. "Commander, I detect no pollution, no mechanical noise, and no powered structures, except for a few faint energy fields around the fields and buildings. Yet the efficiency here is remarkable. These crops are growing faster than normal rates." Ryan noticed her scanning device but showed no reaction. Instead, he turned and gestured for them to follow. "You may walk through our settlement. We will answer what we can. But there are things we keep within our walls, just as we keep our fields within their borders." The landing team moved through the main street. The humans they passed nodded, politely, but none approached. Children watched from doorways, their eyes bright and curious, but strangely calm, as if they already understood who these visitors were. There were no signs of fear, and yet no one seemed eager to speak. Varek's attention was drawn to the tools in the hands of some workers. They were simple, wood, stone, and metal, but shaped with precision. A carpenter smoothed a wooden beam. With a tool that looked centuries old, yet the surface shone as if treated with advanced methods. A farmer carried baskets of vegetables so fresh that they seemed to have been picked moments ago. The commander noticed something else. There were no machines, no transport vehicles, no communication towers, no visible power lines. Yet the people moved with a quiet rhythm, as though they needed nothing more than what they already had. They reached the center of the settlement, where a large building stood. Its high walls were carved with patterns of waves, mountains, and stars. Above the doorway was a symbol Varek did not recognize, a circle with 3 lines crossing through it. "This is our hall," Rian said. "Here we meet, decide, and remember." Inside, the air was cool. Sunlight entered through narrow windows set high in the walls. Along one side, stone benches curved in a semicircle. On the other side stood a table made from a single piece of polished wood, its surface etched with the same patterns that decorated the outside. Ryan invited them to sit. "You have traveled far, Commander. You may ask what you wish." Varek leaned forward. "Why is your colony not recorded? No contact, no trade, no visitors in centuries. This is not how most human settlements survive." The elder's expression did not change. "We chose to remain apart. The galaxy beyond is filled with many voices, but not all of them speak with kindness. We found a place where we could live without those voices reaching us." Kern, the communications officer, asked, "But the signal you sent, was that not an invitation?" Ryan's eyes flickered, just for a moment. "It was not an invitation. It was a mark, a reminder to the sky that we are still here. We expected someone would come eventually. Now that day has arrived." Varek studied him. The words were simple, yet there was weight in them, as if much remained unsaid. Relna asked gently, "Your farms are very productive. Your buildings are strong. Your people are healthy. How do you manage all this without machines?" The elder smiled faintly. "Not everything of value is built by machines. We know the land. We know the seasons. We work with them, not against them." There was a pause, and then Ryan said, "We have learned to listen to the world we live on. In return, it gives us what we need." The commander noticed the way the other humans in the hall stood quietly, their hands folded, their eyes half closed as if listening to something far away. He had the strange feeling that they were not only aware of his presence, but also aware of his thoughts. Before he could ask more, a bell sounded outside. The tone was soft and melodic, unlike any alarm. The villagers began to move toward the door. Ryan rose and said, "It is time for the gathering. You may join us." They stepped outside into the open square where more humans had gathered, hundreds of them, forming a wide circle. In the center stood a group of children holding small instruments that looked like carved wood flutes. They began to play, a slow, flowing melody that seemed to ripple through the air. Varek felt the sound reach deeper than his ears, touching something inside his chest. Around him, the villagers closed their eyes, breathing slowly, as if the music was guiding them. Even Relna and Kern stood very still. Their usual sharp movements softened. The music lasted only a few minutes, but when it ended, the silence felt alive. The villagers opened their eyes, and many turned to look at the landing team with expressions that were not unkind, but carried a sense of knowing. Ryan stepped beside Varek. "This is how we remain. This is how we remember who we are. Our ways are not like the ways of other worlds. To understand us, you must see more than what is in front of you." The commander glanced at him. "And will you show us?" The elder's smile returned, calm and unreadable. "In time, but only if you choose to stay long enough to listen." Far above, the Shalvar orbited quietly, its systems recording every detail. Yet Varek knew that no scan, no chart, and no report could capture what he was beginning to sense. That this world held something far older and deeper than the technology of any star-faring race. And he could not yet decide whether that truth was safe to know. The following morning, soft sunlight filtered through the windows of the small guest quarters where Commander Varek and his landing team had rested. The air inside the stone room was cool and carried the faint scent of fresh herbs. Somewhere, outside, a bird sang in a high, clear tone. Varek rose and stepped outside. The settlement was already awake, but there was no noise of machines, no rush of hurried movement. Instead, people moved with quiet purpose, some tending the fields beyond the walls, others carrying baskets of food or bundles of wood. Relna joined him, holding a small data tablet that now looked almost out of place in this world. "I scanned the settlement last night," she said softly. "The energy readings here are strange, very faint but steady. It's as if the entire town has a constant low-level field around it. I've never seen anything like it." Before Varek could reply, Ryan appeared at the gate of the guest quarters. He greeted them with a nod. "If you are ready, I will take you to the Great Hall. The elders wish to speak with you." The commander agreed, and they followed Ryan through the quiet streets. The villagers they passed all greeted them the same way, with a calm nod, no words, and a steady gaze. The landing team had encountered friendly settlements before, but never one where every person carried the same measured, unhurried manner. The great hall stood in the center of the settlement. It looked even larger in the daylight, the pale stone, walls shining faintly under the sun. The same strange symbol, a circle crossed by 3 lines, was carved above the entrance. The building's doors opened soundlessly as they approached. Inside, the light was soft, coming from narrow openings high in the walls. Stone benches curved in long rows around a central floor, where a wide table made from a single piece of wood stood polished and smooth. Several elders were seated behind the table, each wearing simple robes of earth-toned cloth. One of the elders, a woman with silver hair and sharp, clear eyes, rose to speak. "Welcome, travelers. We are the council of this settlement. Ryan has told us you came following the signal. You have questions, as all visitors do. We will answer some. Others you may find on your own, if you have the patience to remain." Varek inclined his head politely. "We thank you for your welcome. Our records show no colony here. How long have your people been on this planet?" The silver-haired elder's gaze did not waver. "Since before your records began. Our ancestors came here when the skies were troubled. They left the wider worlds behind and found this place hidden in the clouds of the nebula. Here, they built a life away from the noise of war and ambition." Relna asked, "Was there no contact after that? No trade?" A faint smile touched the elder's lips. "We had no need for it. What we need, we grow. What we do not have, we learn to make. The galaxy beyond offers much, but it also takes much. We chose a life where we would not be taken from." Varek noticed the way the other elders sat, hands folded, faces calm, eyes fixed on the visitors without blinking. It felt as if they were quietly measuring him, not only by his words, but by the thoughts behind them. Another elder spoke, his voice deeper and slower. "When a people live apart for many generations, they learn to listen more closely, to one another, to the land, to what lies beyond words. This is our way." The commander hesitated before asking his next question. "Your people seem to have a presence, a kind of unity I have not seen elsewhere. Is there something you are not telling us?" The silver-haired woman's faint smile remained. "There is much we are not telling you. But that does not mean we are hiding in fear. We keep what is not ready to be carried by those who have not learned to walk our paths." Her answer was not what Varek expected, and yet it felt deliberate, designed to leave him curious, but without giving him the means to push further. The council ended the meeting with a simple gesture of welcome. Ryan led the landing team back into the square. Outside, the village was gathering again. This time there was no music. Instead, the people stood in a wide circle, their eyes half closed, breathing in slow unison. Varek could feel the quiet in the air. It was not the stillness of waiting, but the stillness of something being shared among them without words. He and his team stood at the edge of the circle, unsure whether to approach. Ryan glanced at them. "This is our morning silence. We begin each day by remembering who we are before speaking to the world. You may join if you wish." Varek nodded and stepped forward. The silence was deep and steady, and as he stood among them, he felt his own thoughts begin to slow. The usual noise of the mind, the small worries, the calculations, the habit of constant planning, grew quieter. He noticed the soft rustle of wind in the trees, the distant trickle of water from a stream, the warm sunlight on his skin. The silence lasted several minutes, though it felt longer. When it ended, the people opened their eyes and began their day without a word. No one gave instructions or asked questions. Each person simply moved to their task as if they had already agreed on everything without speaking. Relna looked around, her voice low. "Commander, this is unusual. It's like they all know what to do without needing to say it." Varek nodded. "I noticed." Later, Ryan took them to the edge of the settlement, where a small stone bridge crossed a clear stream. On the other side, fields stretched toward the horizon, each one bordered by low stone walls. Workers moved through the crops, their movements precise and steady. Varek could see small glowing points along the edges of the fields. Energy markers, faint but constant. "These fields feed every person here," Ryan said. "No one takes more than they need. No one is left without." Kern asked. And the glowing points, are they for protection? They keep the balance, Ryan answered simply, offering no further detail. By the time the sun began to set, the visitors had seen much, but understood little of what made this place so quietly different. There was a sense that something invisible tied the people together, something deeper than custom or law. That night, Varric stood outside the guest quarters, looking toward the dark outline of the settlement under the stars. Somewhere beyond the walls, he thought he could hear faint singing, soft and slow, like the sound of a river under moonlight. When he looked toward the source, he saw no one. Yet the sound seemed to stay with him even after it faded, like a memory that did not belong to him. He began to wonder if the real answers here were not in the words the villagers spoke, but in the silences they kept. Night fell quickly over the hidden human colony. The air grew cool, and the last golden light of the sun faded beyond the forested hills. Small lanterns lit the streets, their soft glow casting gentle shadows on the pale stone buildings. Commander. Varric stood outside the guest quarters, hands behind his back. The settlement was quieter than any place he had visited in his years of exploration. Even in the night, there was no chatter from homes, no hum of machines, no loud gatherings. Instead, there was a deep, steady stillness. Relna emerged from the doorway behind him carrying her scanning device. "Commander," she said in a low voice, "I've been picking up strange energy patterns. They're faint and scattered, but they seem to come from beneath the ground. Whatever they are, they're active during the night." Before Varric could answer, the sound reached them. Soft singing, drifting through the air from somewhere beyond, the edge of the settlement. The melody was slow, carrying a sadness that was hard to define, and it seemed to blend with the wind itself. Kern stepped out of the guest quarters, looking toward the dark fields. "You hear that too? I've been trying to record it, but every time I do, the playback is just silence." They listened for several moments. The song was unlike any human music Varric had heard. There were no clear words, only tones that rose and fell like waves on a calm sea. The sound carried something deeper than music, something that made him feel both peaceful and uneasy at the same time. Ryan appeared from the shadows, his steps soundless on the stone street. "You hear our night voices," he said calmly. "It is not for your devices. It is only for those who live here." Varric turned to him. "What is its purpose?" The elder's eyes were steady. "It is a way to keep our hearts close. Some speak through words, others through silence. We speak through the song when the stars are high. It reminds us of what we carry." "And what do you carry?" Relna asked. Rian did not answer. Instead, he motioned for them to follow. The landing team hesitated, but then moved after him through the quiet streets. They passed beyond the settlement walls, into the fields bathed in moonlight. The glowing points along the borders of the crops were brighter now, casting a faint blue hue on the plants. The singing grew clearer as they approached a small hill at the far edge of the fields. At its base was a stone archway, half covered with vines. A gentle breeze seemed to come from within, carrying the scent of earth and something faintly sweet, like distant flowers. Ryan stopped at the archway. "Beyond this, the earth remembers. You may enter, but you must walk without questions for now." The commander exchanged glances with Relna and Kern. They followed Ryan inside. The passage was narrow and sloped downward. lit only by pale crystals embedded in the walls. Their glow was steady but soft, casting long shadows. The further they went, the more the air seemed to hum, not with sound, but with a presence that pressed gently against their thoughts. It was not unpleasant, but it was impossible to ignore. Finally, the tunnel opened into a wide cavern. The roof arched high above, and the walls were lined with carvings, scenes of ancient cities, great ships crossing the stars, and finally, images of people turning away from the sky and planting their hands into the soil. At the center of the cavern was a circular pool of still water. Around it stood several figures in simple robes, their faces calm, their eyes closed. They were singing the same melody that had drifted through the settlement earlier. The song filled the cavern, and its sound seemed to touch every surface, as if the stone itself carried the music. The pool's water rippled gently, though no wind stirred it. Varek stepped closer, drawn by the sound. He felt a strange clarity in his thoughts, as though the noise of his mind had been brushed away. Ryan spoke softly beside him. "This is the heart of our home. Here we remember the turning, the moment when our ancestors chose to leave the wide worlds and stay hidden. They gave up the chase for power, for speed, for control. In return, they found something far greater." "And what was that?" Varek asked quietly. The elder looked at him with eyes that seemed far older than his face. "The ability to see the truth without fear. The song is not only sound, it is a way of sharing thought without breaking it into words. It is how we remain one." Relna's eyes moved to the carvings. "These people in the images, they look like they are planting more than crops." "They are," Ryan said. "They plant themselves in the soil of this place, and the soil holds them. Over time, we learn to hear one another as clearly as we hear the wind. It is not magic. It is listening without the noise of the world beyond." Kern frowned slightly. "If you have this connection, why send out a signal at all?" For a moment, Ryan was silent. Then he answered, "Because one day the galaxy will come to our door, whether we call it or not. We sent the signal so that the first to find us might be ready to understand before others arrive." The words settled heavily in the air. Varek realized that this meeting, their arrival, might not have been an accident. The signal may have been more than a simple mark. It could have been a test. The song continued, rising and falling in the cool air of the cavern. The figures by the pool opened their eyes briefly, looking at the visitors with calm expressions, then closed them again. After some time, Ryan led them back toward the surface. The night outside was quiet, except for the soft wind moving through. The crops. The moonlight painted the settlement in silver, and the glowing points around the fields pulsed faintly like slow heartbeats. At the guest quarters, Ryan stopped. "You have seen the outer edge of who we are," he said. "There is more, but you must decide whether you wish to step further in. Not all who see what we hold are able to carry it." Varek nodded slowly, feeling the weight of the choice ahead. Whatever was hidden here was not dangerous in the way of weapons, yet it was powerful. Perhaps powerful enough to unsettle the balance of the galaxy if revealed. And something told him they had only touched the beginning of it. The next morning, the sun rose slowly over the hidden human colony, casting warm light on the pale stone buildings and the carefully tended fields. Commander Varek and his landing team gathered near the settlement square, waiting for Ryan. The Elder arrived quietly, moving with the calm certainty of someone who had walked the same path thousands of times. "Today, you will see more than fields and stone," Ryan said. "You will see what our people carry within themselves. Follow me and listen closely." They walked to the far side of the village, where a small hill rose above the fields. The hill was covered in grass and wildflowers, its gentle slope hiding a stone entrance partially covered by vines. The air here was cooler, heavier, as if the hill itself held a memory. Ryan pushed the vines aside, revealing a door carved directly into the stone. The carvings were intricate, showing humans reaching upward toward stars, then turning their faces downward toward the earth. He pressed his hand against a smooth section of the door. It opened soundlessly, revealing a staircase descending into darkness. Varek's landing team followed cautiously. Relna's scanning device could only detect faint energy readings. The walls glowed with embedded crystals, casting a pale, calming light. The deeper they went, the stronger the quiet feeling became, as if the air itself was alive. At the bottom of the staircase, the passage opened into a vast chamber. The ceiling arched high above, lined with more crystals that reflected light in soft patterns. In the center was a circular pool of still water, similar to the one they had seen the night before. Around it stood more humans, all in simple robes. Their eyes closed as they moved their hands slowly in the air. Varek noticed carvings along the walls, images of cities falling, stars colliding, and humans standing calmly as they planted seeds into the soil. The images showed people in motion, yet the details suggested something beyond ordinary effort. Ryan led the landing team to the edge of the chamber. "This is where we remember our ancestors," he said softly. "They came here seeking safety, but what they found was more than shelter. They found the ability to connect with one another in ways the rest of the galaxy cannot understand." Varek studied the people in the chamber. "You mean, this connection is the power you spoke of?" Rian nodded. "It is not a weapon, and it is not magic. It is knowledge, understanding, and perception. We can feel the truth in another's heart. We can share ideas without speaking them. This gift comes from listening deeply to each other, to the land, and to what lies beyond words." Relna's eyes widened. "So all the skills we saw, the efficiency, the crops, the calm of the settlement, it comes from this connection?" "Yes," Ryan said. "This is why we live apart. The wider galaxy does not understand this way of life. Greed and fear would destroy it. We chose to remain hidden to protect what we have learned." Varek stepped closer to the pool. The water reflected the pale light of the crystals above, rippling gently as if alive. He could feel a faint vibration in the air, not sound, but a sensation pressing gently against his mind. He realized that the people around the pool were not only connected to each other, but to the entire chamber, to the land above, and perhaps even to him. "Can outsiders learn this?" he asked carefully. Ryan looked at him with calm eyes. "Some can, but only if they are ready to leave behind the noise of their world and listen without fear. Not all who try can carry it." One of the humans near the pool opened their eyes and stepped forward. She was young, her features clear and calm. "Commander," she said, her voice gentle, "we felt your presence last night. You are curious, but you carry doubt. To understand, you must let go of the need to control and simply observe." Varek nodded slowly. He realized that any attempt to record, scan, or study this chamber with his usual tools would fail. The gift of this place could not be captured by machines. It had to be experienced. Ryan led them closer. "Watch and listen," he said. "Do not speak unless you feel the need. Do not touch unless asked. Let yourself feel what is here." The humans near the pool began moving in a slow rhythm, hands tracing gentle patterns in the air. The water reflected the light in waves as if responding to their motions. Varek felt a warmth spread through his chest, a calm certainty, and a faint connection to those around him. It was not language, it was not sight. It was a feeling of knowing without words. Relna whispered, This is incredible. I can feel them, somehow, even from here." "Yes," Ryan said. "It is subtle at first, but it grows when you pay attention. We have trained for generations to recognize these currents, to follow them without being lost." Varek closed his eyes and focused. At first, he felt confusion, memories, questions, and the constant rush of plans in his mind. Slowly, he felt them quiet. A soft understanding replaced the noise. The questions of control and fear faded. Instead, he felt the steady presence of the people in the chamber, the flow of energy from the land above, and a faint, guiding calm that seemed to connect everything. After a long moment, Ryan spoke again. "This is why we sent the signal. Not to call others to us, but to offer a choice. Some who find us can see what we hold. Others would be overwhelmed and leave before understanding. You were ready to arrive, and now you can choose how much to, see?" Varek felt the weight of the decision. To take in more could change him forever. To step back might mean never understanding this hidden colony. He opened his eyes slowly. The chamber looked the same, yet he felt as if he had seen much more than its walls and the pool. He had felt the strength of generations, the unity of a people who had chosen understanding over fear, and the quiet power that allowed them to thrive without weapons or machines. Rian nodded. "There is more to learn, but first you must see why we remain apart. The galaxy beyond is hungry for power. If our knowledge were revealed too soon, it would be taken and misused. We protect it by remaining hidden. By understanding this, you understand why we live as we do." Varek finally understood. The colony's strength was not in buildings, crops, or energy fields. It was in the people themselves, in their ability to listen, to understand, and to act together without needing tools or technology. The commander looked around the chamber once more. He realized the truth of Ryan's words. This colony had chosen a different path, one the galaxy would never expect. And in choosing that path, they had found a power far greater than any weapon or starship. Ryan's voice broke his thoughts. "When you leave this chamber, you will carry only your memory. That is enough. Some knowledge must remain unrecorded, or it loses its meaning. You are welcome here, but what you take away must be held carefully in your mind." Varek nodded. He felt the truth of the elder's words. Some things were not meant to be shared lightly. Some truths were strong enough to change worlds if used without care. As the landing team left the underground chamber, the first light of dawn began to filter through the hills above. The settlement below stirred with quiet life, and the team walked in silence, each carrying the weight of what they had seen and felt. For the first time, Varek understood that the hidden colony's greatest strength was invisible to the eye. It was not in machines or weapons, not in numbers or speed. It was in understanding, in the calm power of minds aligned with each other and with the world around them, and he knew that the galaxy beyond this hidden world was not ready for such a power. The sun rose higher over the hidden human colony, casting a warm golden light on the fields and buildings. Commander Varek and his landing team had spent the night in quiet reflection after visiting the underground chamber. The experience weighed heavily on them, and they moved with care through the settlement as if afraid to disturb its calm. Rian appeared at the edge of the square, waiting patiently. His eyes were calm, but there was a quiet energy about him, as if he held knowledge too deep to speak aloud. "Today," he said softly, "you will face the choice of how far you are willing to understand. We call this the test of understanding." Varek looked at him unsure. "A test? What do you mean?" Ryan motioned for them to follow. "The chamber you saw yesterday showed only the first layer. There is more. But before you see it, you must demonstrate that you are capable of listening, seeing, and acting without fear or judgment. This is not a contest. It is a measure of willingness." The landing team followed him toward a hill at the edge of the settlement, where the grass was long and soft. At its base, a small archway led to another underground passage, narrower than the one they had visited before. Crystals embedded in the walls glowed softly, casting gentle light on the descending steps. As they reached the bottom, the passage opened into a large cavern, broader and taller than the previous chamber. A river of clear water ran through the center, reflecting the glowing crystals above. Along its edges stood several humans, their robes simple and clean, their eyes closed. They moved slowly, hands tracing patterns in the air, the same silent rhythm as before. Ryan stopped at the edge. "The river you see is not ordinary water. It carries the memory of our people, the knowledge of generations, and the calm of our hearts. To cross it, you must leave fear and doubt behind. Only then can you understand what lies ahead." Varek stepped closer, studying the river. Its surface shimmered, and he could feel a gentle pulse, as if it had a heartbeat. He glanced at his team. Relna and Kern looked hesitant, but curious. "Commander," Relna said softly, "I feel something. Not danger, but a presence. It's like the water knows we are here." Ryan nodded. "The water responds to the mind and heart. Those who are open may see visions, feel thoughts, or understand truths. Those who resist may see nothing at all." Varek took a deep breath and stepped onto the first stone in the shallow part of the river. The water felt cool, but not uncomfortable. As he moved, he felt a wave of calm sweep over him, washing away tension and fear. The pulse of the river matched the rhythm he had felt in the underground chamber, a quiet beat that seemed to connect everything in the cavern. Relna followed carefully, her device hanging loosely from her hand. The scanning readings showed nothing unusual, yet she felt an undeniable sensation of awareness, of being part of something larger than herself. Kern hesitated. "I don't know if I can. I feel strange, like the river knows my thoughts." Ryan spoke gently. "That is correct. The river reflects not only what you think, but what you feel. Do not hide. Do not fight it. Accept it, and it will guide you." Kern took a deep breath and stepped onto the stones. Immediately, he felt a wave of clarity and understanding, as if his mind had grown quiet yet more awake. The river widened, and the three of them moved in careful steps. As they crossed, faint visions appeared along the edges of their sight. Varric saw images of humans planting crops, teaching children, and working together without words. He felt the effort and care in each act, the patience and focus that allowed their settlement to thrive. Relna's vision was different. She saw the underground chambers, the carvings on the walls, and the flowing energy that connected the people. She felt the pulse of generations and understood in a way she could not describe how knowledge could pass without speaking or writing. Kern's vision showed him the hidden choices their ancestors had made, leaving the galaxy behind, rejecting fear and choosing understanding over power. He felt their courage and their wisdom, and a sense of responsibility settled over him. When they reached the far side of the river, the water returned to its calm state, its surface reflecting the glowing crystals above. Varric, Relna, and Kern stood quietly, absorbing the experience. Rian's voice broke the silence. "You have crossed the river. You have allowed yourselves to feel, to listen, and to understand. That is the first part of the test. The second part is choice. You may see what lies beyond, or you may return to the surface with what you have already learned. Both are valid paths." Varric exchanged glances with his team. "We came to understand," he said finally. "We want to see what lies beyond." Ryan nodded and led them deeper into the cavern. The path narrowed, and the walls were lined with more carvings, showing humans interacting with creatures from distant worlds, traveling among the stars, and creating a balance between knowledge and life. At the end of the passage, they entered a wide chamber. In its center was a stone platform surrounded by a circle of light. On the platform lay an object wrapped in a simple cloth. Ryan motioned for them to approach. "This is the gift of our people," he said softly. "It is not a weapon. It is not a tool. It is knowledge and understanding made tangible. It is what allows our settlement to live in harmony and to remain hidden while thriving. You may touch it if you are ready, but you must do so without fear, without desire for control, and without judgment." Varric stepped forward, his hand trembling slightly. He felt the weight of generations pressing on him, the responsibility of what he might learn. He reached out and touched the cloth. Instantly, a flood of understanding filled his mind. He saw the land, the water, the people, and their history. He understood the choices of the ancestors, the care they had taken to remain hidden, and the reason for their harmony. He saw how patience, listening, and awareness could create strength far beyond weapons or technology. Relna and Kern also touched the cloth. They experienced the same clarity, feeling the connection to the land and the people, understanding the true power of patience and unity. When they withdrew their hands, they were silent. Words felt unnecessary. Each felt the depth of the colony's knowledge, and each understood that this power was not to be shared lightly. Rian looked at them with quiet approval. "You have passed the test of understanding. You may leave with your memory, your experience, and your choice. You may return to the surface knowing what we are, or you may stay and learn more. The choice is yours, and the consequences belong only to you." Varric nodded. "We will leave with what we have learned. The galaxy is not ready for this power, yet. We understand why you remain hidden." Ryan's calm smile was the only response. "Then go with respect and let your experience guide your actions. The world outside is not ready to hear what you have seen, but perhaps one day it will. Learn to listen. As they returned to the surface, the first light of dawn touched the hills. The settlement below stirred with quiet life. The team walked in silence, carrying the weight of the experience. They knew they had witnessed something extraordinary, something far beyond technology or strength. They had seen the hidden human. Colony's greatest power, understanding, patience, and the ability to live in harmony with each other and the land. Varek looked back at the hills, the hidden entrance now covered with grass and vines. He understood that the galaxy would never guess what lay beneath, and perhaps that was the colony's greatest protection. And as they prepared to leave, he felt a quiet certainty that the humans of this hidden world had discovered something far greater than survival. They had discovered the strength of being human in its purest form. The landing team walked slowly back to the edge of the settlement, their steps quiet on the soft grass. The sun was climbing higher in the sky, painting the village and fields in warm light. Commander Varek felt a weight in his chest, not of fear, but of responsibility. What they had seen and felt beneath the earth, in the river of understanding and in the chamber of knowledge, was not just a secret. It was a gift, a lesson about what humans could achieve when they chose patience, unity, and listening over ambition or haste. Ryan met them at the outer edge of the settlement. His calm eyes studied each member of the landing team. "You carry a heavy understanding now," he said softly. "Remember this. It is not to be shown lightly. Some truths are stronger than weapons, and some knowledge changes the heart before the mind. You have seen what we are. Go with respect." Varek nodded. "We understand. Your people's way of life, the care you take with each action, and the harmony you have built, it is beyond anything we imagined. We will carry it with us, carefully." Relna adjusted her scanning device, now feeling almost out of place among the natural quiet of the settlement. "We tried to record, to measure, to understand in our own way," she admitted. "But the tools can't capture what we've experienced. We can only feel it, remember it, and learn from it." "That is correct," Ryan said. "The gift of our people cannot be taken with machines or charts. It must be understood, held, and lived. Only then does it remain true." The landing team stepped onto the hill where their shuttle waited. The settlement spread below, peaceful and calm, a place untouched by the chaos of the galaxy beyond. The glowing points along the fields pulsed faintly in the sunlight, a quiet heartbeat beneath the surface of the land. Varek looked back toward the village. The humans walking through the streets, tending the crops, teaching children, and moving in quiet rhythm. They seemed ordinary at first glance. Yet Varek knew they were extraordinary. Their strength was not in weapons, machines, or numbers. It was in their understanding, their unity, and their ability to live in harmony with the world around them. The shuttle lifted from the grass gently, its engines humming softly as it rose. Varek watched the settlement shrink beneath them. He could feel the calm energy of the colony lingering, like a gentle pull in his chest. He knew the galaxy beyond would never guess what existed here. And perhaps that was the greatest protection of all. Relna broke the silence. "Commander, do you think we will ever find another place like this?" Varek shook his head slowly. "I doubt it. What we have seen here is rare. The galaxy is full of people, worlds, and civilizations, but few choose to live with this kind of care. Few stop to truly listen. This colony is unique, and it will remain hidden for a reason. Kern looked out the window at the shrinking hills. It makes you wonder what humans can do if we really try, he said. Not just build ships or weapons, but actually grow together, learn together, and protect what we have. Varric smiled, faintly. That is the lesson we take with us. We may not be able to recreate what they have built, but we can carry the understanding. We can teach others to see, listen, and work with one another. That is the true power of being human. The shuttle broke through the upper atmosphere of the planet, and the hidden colony became a distant memory of green fields and pale stone buildings. Yet the memory was vivid in each of them, the quiet strength of the people, the rhythm of the river, the chamber of understanding, and the pulse of generations who had chosen unity over ambition. Varric turned to his team. We must be careful. This knowledge is fragile. It is strong, but it is also easy to lose if we act without patience or respect. We have seen what humans can be when we live as we should. We must honor that lesson. Relna nodded. I understand. It will stay with us, not as something to use, but as something to remember. Kern added, and maybe we can share the lesson, slowly. Not the secret itself, but the idea. That understanding, patience, and listening are stronger than any weapon or machine. Varric looked out at the stars. Beyond this hidden world, the galaxy was vast and filled with people who would never know what existed beneath the hills. But he understood something important. Even if most humans never experienced this colony, the lesson could travel, quietly, through the choices they made, the care they took, and the way they treated each other. Hours passed as the shuttle traveled toward the edge of the system. The landing team spoke little, each lost in thought. Varric reflected on what they had witnessed, the life of a people who had chosen a different path, a path of harmony and understanding, and how that choice had shaped every aspect of their world. He realized that this hidden colony represented the best of humanity. Not the humans who fought for dominance, wealth, or power, not the humans who rushed blindly into conflict or conquest, but the humans who listened, who cared, who built strength quietly, and who grew together without needing recognition. Finally, Varric spoke, his voice steady. We have seen something rare. We have felt the strength of humans at their best. Let us carry that lesson forward, and let it guide our actions. The galaxy may never know what we have seen, but our choices can reflect it. Relna and Kern nodded. The silence that followed was calm, yet full of understanding. They had been changed by what they experienced, not in a way that would make them powerful in the galaxy, but in a way that would make them wiser. As they approached their next destination, Varric allowed himself a small thought. Perhaps this hidden colony was not just protecting itself. Perhaps it was protecting the idea of humanity, what humans could be when they chose understanding over fear, unity over conflict, and care over ambition. The stars stretched out before them, endless and bright. The hidden human colony became a memory behind them, a quiet heartbeat of hope and patience. Varric knew the galaxy beyond would continue its chaos, its struggles, and its races for power. But he also knew that somewhere, hidden in the stars, a small world thrived quietly, teaching a lesson far greater than any warship, any weapon, or any empire could offer. And in that knowledge, he felt a calm certainty. Humans could be more than the galaxy expected. The shuttle moved forward, carrying the landing team toward new adventures, new discoveries, and new challenges. Yet the memory of the hidden colony, its quiet strength and its unspoken understanding remained with them, a guide for the choices they would make and a promise of what humanity could truly become when it remembered its own heart. Commander Varric looked at his team once more. "We have learned the greatest lesson of all. Let us live by it, and let it guide us in the days to come." And as the stars stretched out before them, he knew that the lesson of the hidden colony, the strength of understanding, patience, and unity, would remain alive in their hearts, ready to inspire whenever it was needed most. The galaxy was vast, but humanity had shown that even in its quietest corners, it could shine brighter than any star.